Hey folks, we have another multi-parter for you. If you haven't listened to Chester Lampkin's first episode, go back and listen to last week. I've known Chester for over 10 years, so we had to take our time with this one and, just go on and on and on and recap memories. It might be a little intense, but he's also a
broadcast meteorologist.
So he is on point with the answers and his professionalism and just staying on track and giving me what I asked for. So he really upped my game as a podcaster, if I'm being honest. So I'm just going to spread out his interview because I want to appear cooler and way more prepared than normal. Anyway, this is part 2. Enjoy. Oh, hi. You're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky ones that got out and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this as I currently work, or I used to work, at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles, and at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So, let's eat! We are back, and now it is time for the entrees. Okay, Chester, this is the speed round of questions. Feel free to tell stories. Feel free to interject. Whatever you can think of, I'm sure everyone would be excited to hear because you've alluded to a couple jobs, and I absolutely have to know about McDonald's. But the first question is, what was your first job ever?
Oh, boy. Okay, honestly, my first job, I got really lucky. Well, I don't know. How do you say it? There was this program in St. Louis. It was called the St. Louis Internship Program, okay? So I'm not going to talk too much about this job because honestly, the job was kind of boring. But it was my first job. I got to work in a state of Missouri office in downtown St. Louis. So it was during the summer after my junior year, I guess it would have been. I don't know. Remember. Whatever. I was 16. I didn't know anything. And I would ride the bus we have a light rail system in St. Louis, ride the bus or the Metrolink downtown. I worked in a downtown office. So I got to be a miniature adult for a summer. I had a tie, which I hated. And I'm a broadcast meteorologist. So I have had to wear a tie almost every day for my entire career. Though for the pandemic, I've been going tie-less.
Ooh,
I know,
you
just shaking it up.
Hey-o. Okay,
Hey-o.
What was your first customer service job?
Okay, so yeah, that job wasn't much of a customer service job.
Oh, it's a cool job though.
McDonald's.
Oh,
Mickey D's.
Mickey D's was the first. Okay.
Macca's, as they call it in New Zealand, Macca's.
Do they call it that? That's funny.
Yeah, I know. I still call it that with my partners.
That's Macca's. Cute. So what did you do there? What was your role?
Okay, so I was flipping burgers in my first job.
Literally?
So, literally flipping burgers.
Awesome. Okay.
And so, I did that part-time while I was in high school. I've worked literally since I was 16. I've had very few breaks. I don't know.
You're just a hard worker. That's a good thing. You're a hard worker. It's not a bad thing.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay, So you work at McDonald's. What was your tenure there?
So that was about a year and some change up until before college. Yeah, I guess I would have been throughout my junior and senior year. Yeah.
Okay. So. How many customer service jobs have you had? Let's
Too many.
Let's go. Let's do it. Come on.
I don't think I'm going to break your record for how many customer service jobs on the podcast, but I'm going for it as varied as possible.
Okay.
So I've worked at...
We got McDonald's as one.
McDonald's.
Okay.
I worked at... What was my next customer service? The Muni in St. Louis. So for anyone who knows St. Louis, outdoor theater, right? Amazing place. You can see some fantastic shows. I worked in the concession stand there. So I got to do that for a summer after high school, before college.
Okay.
I worked at, throwing it back old school, Sam Goody Music.
What up,
That's
Sam
right.
Goody? Oh, R.I.P.
I know.
That's sad.
I know.
They're gone.
Sad. Yeah.
Okay, what'd you do at Sam Goody?
I was slinging CDs. No, yeah, I just worked, I was
You were just retail.
Yeah, just retail.
Okay.
First of a few retail jobs.
Okay, so Sam Goody, what's next?
See, what else did I do? I did a variety of college on-campus jobs. So, it's kind of customer service.
Yes, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
Geared towards, just a specific audience. I worked at a couple front desks at some of the dorms.
Okay.
I worked at a front desk / mailroom on campus for a couple summers. I did that for a couple summers.
You were an RA. I think being an RA
I was an
counts.
RA for a couple years, yeah. And I also worked at at the nursing school as a desk worker as well. Yeah, on the medical campus at St. Louis University. So I did that for several months.
Jesus.
Of a school year. I know.
We're up to 9.
Yeah, some of those jobs, by the way, I did while I was still working at Sam Goody. I would work Sam Goody like part-time. And I worked at Sam Goody 2 different locations.
Chester, how did you not flunk out of school? Like the demand at school was so intense. Like I worked senior year and I was like, I'm going to kill myself.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how I did not flunk out of school because I was working a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like I thrive in busyness, but I don't thrive in that kind of busyness.
It was too much.
All right, so we're up to 9. Keep going.
Okay, what else did we do? Okay, so
and P.S. meteorology 1000% counts as customer service. So we're gonna add up all the little meteorology jobs. So just be prepared, audience.
Well, and then. We'll get to that in a second. All right. So then I worked at a couple unique places. One was I worked for a regional airline.
That's cool as fuck. What doing what? Were you flying planes?
No. Hell no. Man, that would be a disaster. No, I worked I threw bags onto airplanes though. Like I was working out. Yeah, I was on the ramp. I was a ramp worker.
That is so physically demanding.
It was. And I did that for a summer and parts of one of my senior years. I don't know.
Okay.
It's hard to remember.
Yeah.
I had too many jobs. There was a point where I literally had 4 jobs. One of those school years. Yeah.
No, that's too many jobs.
I know. It was crazy, but it was like they'll call you if they need you kind of jobs, like, oh, we need you. Okay, I can go in and work a couple shifts, here or there. Yeah.
No thanks.
But yeah, I did that. So the customer service job, I mean, the Trans-States Airlines, which I just read recently, they just like wrapped up operations. So they don't even exist, I don't think, anymore, which is bizarre. They were a carrier that contracted with American Airlines. So I actually got, so they were a regional airline. So regional airline, I got to, that was my first time flying, actually. I had never flown before I was like 20 or 21 or something like that, whatever age I was. And I got to fly for super cheap or free. A lot of it was standby, but I got to fly for free or cheap for like a year plus because of this job. So that was one of the few perks. Yeah,
for those of us with wanderlust, it's the thought of having somebody that works in an airline. I'm like, I gotta absorb a friend that is gonna give me a buddy pass that I can just go all over. Because I met backpacking a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, my like mom works for the airline, so I just go where. And I was like, fuck you, and they would just one day they'd be like, okay, I'm going to Bali, and I'm like, I'm gonna push you off of the plane.
I know. Slap you.
Yeah. All right, so go ahead. So we're up to 10. Regional airline is 10.
Regional airline. I worked at a catering business in downtown St. Louis.
You and I both worked for the same one.
We did work at that same place, and I did that. What was that? That was probably like a year and some change, like where I would work. But a lot of
Sloobies, a lot of us.
Folks, St. Louis University folks were working there at the same time.
Are you comfortable saying the name, or would you rather not because of our association?
I have no problem saying it. It was called Windows on Washington.
And there was also Windows off Washington, which was exceptionally confusing, but they were both a catering company for weddings and weirdness.
Understand it. So anyway, that was probably the most restaurant-like position I ever had. That's one of the few, I don't know. I got to bartend too there.
So did I. I lied and said I had bartending experience, and they were like, cool. And they threw me behind the bar. And then I I lied to the guests. I was like, oh no, this bar only serves vodka sodas and like rum and diets and stuff. So yeah. So like, you do that? Oh yeah. No, you couldn't. It was the worst idea. I never got called back because it was like, I really wanted the bartending money because you could get tipped there. So I was tired of just doing the plate tray passing bullshit. So I was like, no, I've definitely bartended before. And then just like, if people would come up and order a Cosmo, I'd be like, this bar doesn't have the capabilities for it. And they'd look over and they'd be like, there's cranberry juice right there. And I'd be like, yeah, no, this bar doesn't. I can do you vodka cran. I'm a bad person. Keep going. Okay.
Do you remember this? Okay.
What?
Can we just talk about Windows on Washington just for a second or whatever?
It was so intense. Yes.
We weren't supposed to get tips. Like we weren't supposed to be tipped.
Oh, that's
the bartenders were not. And I remember that rule. And I'd slyly put a glass out to get tipped anyway.
I was going to say, I think I definitely got tips doing that, though. So
we weren't supposed to be, but I was like, oh, what a bartender. I'm like, if I'm going to be making drinks, and then, you make them a little stronger, and then these drunk people just come back to you,
Correct.
and give you more money.
Correct. Hello, it's the game. It's the game. Whatever. They were making a grip because they were like the only spot in town. Like they were busy constantly.
Yeah, and they were paying us not great. I mean, for then it was okay money, but like it wasn't.
We weren't like it was minimum wage, but maybe like 75 cents over.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got it based on the years you were there, blah, blah, blah. No thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So
anyway.
Catering is 11. Keep going.
Oh, goodness gracious. Is that everything? Okay. National Park Service. So I did that for 2 summers. And actually, I say 2 summers, but really I did a couple shifts throughout my third senior year at St. Louis University, my second victory lap, if you will. Finally, I worked a few shifts in between, like during the school year too.
Okay.
I think at that point, I finally started quitting jobs at that point.
Oh, good. Like, okay. Hero. You psycho. Okay.
By the end of the year, I only had like 2 jobs.
So what did you do at the Park Service?
I loved that job.
I really know. Did. It was so cool.
Good. I have a flat hat and everything. Like it was such a great job. Okay, so
for the shy boy you were, it's crazy that you did this job because this is.
I know. All I did was talk to people too, and it was great. I worked in interpretation. So basically, they have their park rangers. They're divided up into sort of the interpreters who basically interpret history. And so they're basically like history nerds and or history buffs. And that's what a lot of the park rangers do. That's who you mostly interact with at the Park Service. And then there's like law enforcement, and then there's a couple other things. So I definitely you don't want to put a gun anywhere near me. I'm nothing. It's terrible. All right. So I did that. It counted actually as a history internship. Helped me get my history degree that first summer.
That SLU was generous with that because anyway, go ahead. Okay, so at the Parks Department though, you acted as a historical interpreter. Do you speak Tagalog or no? Do you only speak English?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I know 3 words in Tagalog. I'm the worst Filipino ever.
No, you're not the worst. I just was curious. I was going to ask if that
as far as languages. Yeah, I'll eat all the food though. And I've been to the Philippines, but yeah.
Okay, so you were interpreting history, so that didn't mean an extension of languages. That just meant you presented sort of you. So would you have to study a lot of because you were by the Arch, right? Wasn't that where your sort of zone was?
We were at the Arch is part of the National Park Service. So yeah, I worked in the museum at the Arch. So I did that for a couple summers. I would give tours. I went to the top of the Arch. If anyone's been to the Gateway Arch, went to the top. I literally had to go there every day. Every day I would go to the top of the Arch.
Jesus.
And if you go up there, there's like little pods, okay? Like you go up this, you look at the arch, think about the Gateway Arch. It's like curved. So it's not a regular elevator, okay? Mm-mm. It's like this weird oversized dryer, as I like to call it. You just get in and it like takes you up and it's like all sounds rickety and stuff like that. Apparently it's safe though.
It's awful though, because you're going at a curve though. You're not going up straight.
Right. And then like the pod is curved. So if you're like a tall person, if you're like at all taller than me, I'm 5'8". If you're at all taller than me, you're like bent over like this. You're like your head's crooked.
No,
and you're in there with 4 other people, and there's no air conditioning. And it's summer.
It's the Wonka factory. It's too much.
It was, and some people would literally. I mean, this is kind of a side note of a customer service story. Some people would literally go down to get into the pods and would literally say nope when the doors would open. They would just go back and just go get a refund.
Meaning so you would have to pay to go up. So they would walk, the doors would open, they'd walk in and they'd be like, hell no. And literally do
I'm not doing this. Yep.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And then we can get back to the stories in a second. A few people would come up to the very top and they would go up the stairs because you get off the pod at the Gateway Arch. You get off this little pod and you're crunched in there for 7 minutes, 8 minutes. You get off, you have to go up this very narrow, steep stairwell. And you get up to the top and you're 630 feet off the ground, okay? Ooh. And people, they get up there and they're like, no. And they go right back down. I'm like, you just paid like $20 to get up here and you're not going to look out the window?
And also, you're already up there. Yeah.
You're there. You might as well just go. But people would do it. I'm like, are you rolling in the dough? $20, that hurts me today, okay? If I waste $20. And I'm doing all right now. It hurts.
Okay, so you are a historical interpreter. You do that job for a while. Is that whilst you're in college as well as after, or was that only during college?
Yeah, a couple months after. So I did that for this that second summer. So that's where I worked. That was kind of like my holding place job until I got into TV. That
Okay.
was like my job. So it's for the National Park Service. Like I said, you're a federal government worker. And, a lot of people say a lot of bad things about government workers. I'll tell you this. There's some lazy freaking park rangers out there. There really are. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a few. Okay. But a majority of them they really care. They're really good people. They're just nice people, and they do care about environment and history and stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, right. So I got that job, right? That's the job before I was working TV. If you had paid me annually, if I had stayed in the Park Service, my annual salary would have been like $12,000 more than what I got at my first TV job.
I hope everyone hears that. Yes.
I mean, there were times where I thought, well, maybe I'll just stay and work for the Park Service, and so that I can actually
live your life,
to, eat, peanut butter sandwiches for lunch. It's terrible.
It's terrible. It's an actual problem. It makes me so upset. Okay, so you do that for a few months, then a few months after college. Is the next transition then Grand Junction, Colorado?
Sure was. Yeah, I actually, as I worked, so I graduated from SLU, and then I start working. I think I had already started back with the Park Service by graduation time, around that time. Certainly a week after, because they're busy. It's the busy season. It's summer, so they need people. What is it? Memorial through Labor Day is like the big, summer travel season, right? This is before the pandemic. When people were allowed to travel, and
what?
You didn't have to worry about keeling over and dying from a deadly virus. But
it's fake. It's just the flu.
It's the flu. It's no worse than the flu. Get out of here with that. Anyway, so I did that. Soon as graduation, around that time, and I as I was working, I got my resume together. I had gotten my resume tape. I don't know how I even got a job because my resume tape was terrible, but I was applying for jobs. There was a website, a main website that a lot of TV people would use. It was called tvjobs.com. Still around. I don't know how. I'm not trying to name drop them because they're not paying me anything, but it still exists. And that's where a lot of the media jobs were. And so that's the website I used to find my job. It was that, and there's like another one called Media Line or something. I don't even remember. And I don't remember which one of those websites I found my job, but I found it on there, and they actually, okay, Kate, all right, let me tell you how bad it was, okay? They were like, yes, we want you to come interview, but can you pay for half the flight?
Fuck off.
Not even kidding. They were like, we'll pay for half your flight.
Chester.
And your hotel. And I'm like, you're so desperate, you're like.
You say yes.
Oh, I'm like, yeah, I have no choice, Like, I can't drive to Grand Junction. It's like a 20-hour drive from St. Louis, Like, people don't realize how big Colorado is and all the states in between. Kansas.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Don't start shit. I have Kansas listeners. Be nice.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to crap on Kansas, but I did.
Yes, you are. You just did.
He's
rolling his eyes.
Guy.
He's rolling his eyes so hard right now.
Like, they're to the back of my head.
Yeah, they are.
It's embarrassing.
Okay, so Grand Junction is job 13.
Yeah.
Then what's next?
Yeah, Grand Junction is job 13.
Where they make you pay for half of your fucking flight, which is obnoxious.
Making just barely above minimum wage. Let's see what else. Then Jeff City, Columbia. So that's 14.
Yep.
And then El Paso, 15. Worked at the NBC affiliate there. I loved El Paso. Underrated place.
Texas is great. Yeah, there's some issues there, but largely, I'm a big fan of the state.
Yeah. And I was right next to New Mexico, which is a beautiful state, too.
New Mexico is so fun. Yeah. People sleep on New Mexico. I love New Mexico.
Yeah, we can go on. We can do a podcast about that.
Yes, agreed.
Another time.
Yep.
Then I went back to Jeff City, Columbia. So I did it. Like I said, I'm a Boomerang employee. So I went back to the same station. So as the chief meteorologist, so I did that for about a year and some change. Then I got recruited over to St. Louis, thanks to, again, my former teacher. He was like, you should come here. It's great. You'd fit in. It's your hometown. It makes sense. And it did make sense. And like I said, it will always, St. Louis is my heart. But yeah, I worked there for about 3 and some change. And then the New Zealand job, which was a little bit different. I wasn't doing live TV anymore. Everything was pre-recorded, but I still was doing, I basically, even though they speak English there, right? But it's more of the Queen's English.
Sure.
So I had to learn some phrases, learn a few things. I had to tone down some of my American phrases and things like that.
Yeah, they get offended over there. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Kiwis are actually really super laid back, but I did have a couple like trolls online who'd be like, look at this American. Why you got to hire this American? You know, the whole xenophobia thing, which is so in fashion these days.
Yep.
It was a thing then too. It was just stupid.
And it's like there is an actual explanation for why they had to hire an American to fulfill that slot. And it was like specific to a skill set that you happen to uniquely have.
Exactly.
And also English is still your first language. So fuck off. And even if it weren't fuck off, but also like extra fuck off. Oh, that makes me crazy. Okay, so New Zealand job, then St. Louis again?
Then back to St. Louis, where I was the weekday morning meteorologist. And so then our show started at 4:30, so that was a beast. Having to be in work at like 2, and I would come in around 2:15.
I just wouldn't go to bed. Like I would just be like, I'm third shift and just. But you have a kid and a partner, so you can't do that.
Yeah. If it was just me and I didn't have to be around people, I probably would have done it that way. But it's hard.
Yeah,
that's TV. I love the morning show, and what I love about morning TV is that you get to be more fun. Sometimes morning TV people can be obnoxious.
Sure,
I totally get it because I've probably been that person at times. But like, I got to wake up every day and like kind of talk about something that I'm excited about, and that was really cool. But that schedule is awful. It is a beast. Our producers, the people who put together our show, and some of those folks would come in at 11 o'clock the night before and start their shift.
I mean, that's third shift. Like now
that's basically third shift.
Yeah, you're an overnight employee at that point.
Right, and you don't, and I mean, I don't want to get into. I work for that company now, so I'm definitely not gonna say anything, that's
disparaging. It doesn't sound like you are. Yeah, you're not.
But it is tough. It is tough to do that shift, and I think a lot of people who haven't done morning TV news or any shift like that, they just don't understand what it's like. And so they have expectations. Sometimes, people will want to have meetings in the middle of the day, or they want you to get this story for the morning show. And I'm like, when do I sleep?
Yeah, I mean, that has to be something that's factored. Does the union protect you in that way? Like, does it stand up for you in those? Because don't we have to we're guaranteed 6 hours of sleep a night, right? I think, or something like that.
Right. Yeah, there's certain amounts of time you can't work,
so many 24s in a row. It has to be like,
yeah, exactly. There's, and the thing about it is that each contract with each TV station is different. So even though I still work for the same company, I work for Tegna here in DC. The station that I work for in St. Louis is also a Tegna station, but the contract is specific to the TV station. The local SAG-AFTRA unit will negotiate a specific contract with the station based on the market, because there are a lot of markets where Tegna exists where they don't have. It's not union shop, so there's no company-wide blanket
policy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends on the market.
So from the St. Louis Tegna job, you that gets us up to today in DC,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, where I am now. Mm-hmm.
Now you did not include JCPenney on this list, but I'm adding it now. Can you think of any other simultaneous customer service jobs you had?
Yes. Actually, I'm glad you reminded me of that, because remember I told you I worked at JCPenney, so that was part-time, okay?
Uh-huh.
Goodness gracious. So I worked at JCPenney part-time for about a year in Columbia, Missouri. Big college town. University of Missouri is there, whatever. And then I worked, before I forgot about this job. I actually worked at Sears for a couple months before JCPenney.
This is what happens to guests, like especially those of us who have been in customer service forever. Like I'll get text messages the next day after an interview. It was like, oh my God, I forgot these 3. And then I have to do like a programming note, like actual total 36 or whatever the hell. Okay. So you worked at Sears for a minute, then JCPenney. Yeah. Did you have any other like weird part-time customer service jobs peppered in there?
One more. So my final part-time job, and knock on wood, I've not had a part-time job since. I worked at a bank as a teller.
Oh, I have heard that is awful.
I actually had a good experience. And the reason why is because the bank I worked at was not busy. There were times where I would go like 45 minutes without a customer.
Ooh, okay.
It was sweet. It was sweet.
That's pretty boring, though. You probably weren't allowed to be on your phone.
Yeah, no, I couldn't. And that was before
Smartphones?
Was that before smartphones? Or I don't even remember. Yeah, that was before smartphones.
Well, Grandpa, what'd you do? What'd you do?
my
But when there
gosh.
when there was 45 minutes of nothing, would you just chat with your coworkers? What if they sucked?
Sometimes. There was some work I had to do. I had to do other
Tellery things. Okay.
non-customer facing things. But I did get to screw around on the internet a little bit of that.
Okay.
Thankfully, the internet had already been invented.
What?
so-
Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to leave an away message on my AIM.
Mapquest.com,
At the bank. Be back soon.
Yeah. BRB. Yeah, so I did that, and I think I read a lot.
Oh, that's
back
cool.
When I used to be able to read. That was before I had a child.
Kids ruin everything. I've said it on this podcast before. I'll say it again.
They're like the best thing, and also I get nothing.
Drain your life. Yeah.
It's like a child climbing on me all the time. And we only have one. So I don't know how people with more than one do it. I just
God bless them, especially now. Okay, so your rounded out total was 23 for your customer service jobs. So that's a lot, considering that you are a boomeranger. I still counted when you would go back and forth, but that's a fair, that's a lot of jobs. 23, we're up to it. Okay. So of all of those, and obviously your current employer is, your current favorite because because that's
obviously
they're doing big things for you. But of the jobs you've mentioned, minus your current employer, what was your favorite of all of those jobs?
Hands down, the New Zealand job. Hands down.
I figured.
To be fair, a lot of it was because it was such an amazing place.
Oh,
but I'll tell you this, and I think you will appreciate this. Okay, you certainly will. It was 8 to 5. Okay, Monday through Friday. I had all the weekends off, all the holidays off. I had 5 weeks of vacation. It was. I know a lot of people are like, "What? 8 to 5? That's so." In my world, that is a gem.
That is a gem, and to have it defined,
and
to get 5 weeks of vacation and entertainment is like unheard of unless you're between gigs.
Exactly, and it was perfect. Like in that sense.
Sure.
I wasn't going to get rich off of that job.
Sure.
I certainly wasn't, but I got to be around really smart meteorologists, and at my core, I consider to be, I don't like to say I'm a scientist. I'm more like an applied scientist, someone who applies, because I have a science background, so I can apply that knowledge to my job. So I like to say I'm an applied scientist. I'm not going to further research. I'm not going to I'm not going to come up with the next conceptual model about cold fronts or something like that. But
I don't know, Chester, you might.
No, probably not. But I'll inspire someone else to go into this business, and that next person will be the next super egghead, meteorologist that comes up with the next big amazing thing, But I certainly was thankful because I got to work with really smart other meteorologists who were certainly just really smart people. I learned a lot from them, and I still got to do my weather thing, and I got to present weather because, they call them presenters down there. Like here, we're not really presenters. They were just like an anchor or whatever, but they're presenters because, it's very British, I can't do a British accent otherwise.
You're presenting the news.
Yeah, exactly.
The weather.
That was good. That was perfect. Yeah. So I got to present the weather in the Southern Hemisphere where it's summer in December, and winter in July. And I got to do it in a unique place with this beautiful landscape. And I learned some skills down there. I learned a little bit about meteorology. I learned a little bit about languages. I will never claim to know how to speak Maori, but the Maori language is a Polynesian language. And I learned how to at least pronounce things properly. I kind of get how their words are structured now. So I got to learn a lot of cool, amazing things I would have never in a million years would have ever learned working in the States.
And you also had the dopest, cutest little house, like apartment house area, and
Yeah.
like great neighbors. And you just lived on this cute little hill that was right by a grocery store. Like you were, it was such a like, it just felt like there was an ease in the whole of that part of the world that I feel like is missing elsewhere. And I think that there is a bit of that island sort of easy breezy kind of thing, but also it is very much built into the culture to like make eye contact and get to know people. I didn't get island fever when I was there, and I get island fever in like Hawaii. I got it in Bali. Like I don't get it, or I didn't get it in New Zealand because it just felt inclusive as opposed to pushing you out.
Right,
So,
right. And I mean, there's no, every place has its ups and downs. I'm not going to say that it's a perfect place, but it is very welcoming, in general. It is, I feel like it's a fairly inclusive society.
Yeah, I would agree.
There's a lot of good down there, but there's, like I said, there's other things about it that may not be perfect. So,
I mean, it's made up of people. That happens.
Yeah,
okay.
People can be, kind of big.
Kind of people-y. Okay, what's
kind of
your least favorite of all of those customer service jobs? If you don't say Windows, I'm gonna kill you. No, I'm just kidding. Say whatever.
No, really. Honestly, like that was probably one of my most exhausting jobs.
Oh, catering is hard as fuck.
It kicks your ass. It's very shitty. It really is.
Yeah.
But I think hands down has to be McDonald's.
Oh, sure.
And it's not. I will admit again. I don't want to piss off Ronald McDonald or anything.
Well, he is listening.
I couldn't eat the food for a year afterward, but now I can because the French fries, I can't stop them. Anyway.
Well, but that's very, 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 very common for anyone I know or have spoken to that worked in fast food. The sort of once you see how the sausage is made, but you also have to keep smelling it.
Yes.
Like, I mean, apparently that smell will make you sick after a while, after some time, but then eventually the smell comes back as like, I want it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I'm addicted again,
yeah, but anybody that's like worked there or like Abercrombie, I hear that like when you're done with an Abercrombie run, you absolutely, if anybody walks by with any cologne that they ever sell or pump into the air, they're like, you actually get physically ill.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. Okay, so McDonald's was your least favorite. Why?
You just referred to the smell thing. Yeah. I literally would leave there smelling like the place. And it follows you. It's like a funk that just like gets into your pores. And if you don't take a shower after working there, you're a disgusting human being because you have to get that smell off you. It is. And the thing is, though, and like I said, I definitely will eat it now. But like, after a while, I was just like, oh my God, I can't do this food place anymore. You feel like a ball of grease. Like it feels like there's just a layer of grease on your body.
I don't know if this was when you leave the restaurant. I don't know if this was your experience, and I don't want to put this, if this wasn't yours, say no, but I find that there is a definite distinction. And like, I think in customer service, we get shit on a lot just by nature of the job. But I feel like there is a distinction with how fast food employees are treated and the lack of respect for how actually insanely hard turning shit over all day as quickly as possible actually is. And like flipping 1,000 burgers in a day is actually really fucking hard.
Yes, physically and
mentally taxing. Yes, because you have to try and keep yourself engaged in it. And I think and imagine like doing that over and over and people thinking that your job just is kind of like, oh, whatever, I could do that. And it's like, you may be able to handle the physicality of flipping over a burger, but can you handle the mental side of that, doing the same shit over and over every day? And getting shit on by people? I don't know. I don't know that I could.
I saw numerous customers, and thankfully this never happened to me really, but I saw numerous customers verbally abuse my coworkers.
It's assault.
For over, a missing thing of French fries or like, the wrong soda. It's just like,
bro.
I mean, come on. Is your life that bad that you get that? And we don't know where people are coming from, but people that's when I first realized, and I was like 16, 17. I realized how many people are just straight up a-holes out there.
Agreed.
And I know none of my viewers are like that. They're great. No. But like the people who are just out there, the general public, and you come and crap on a fast food employee of all people. Like they're getting paid
peanuts.
Nothing.
Peanuts. Yes.
You don't get, people don't tip you.
Nope.
You get paid crap. You get no benefits.
And
like
you're standing in grease all day. And people
and you smell like it. People will throw food at you.
Throw food. I've seen that. Yep.
That is,
astounding.
this is a time before smartphones, so I got to see a lot of stuff, but I never, like now we see it on TV all the time or whatever, people recording it. People, who throws food? What grown human being throws food at another human being? Are you a toddler? I have a toddler, and he doesn't even throw food.
Right? I mean, but it's holding the McDonald's to the expectation that's like a Michelin star restaurant. And
right.
You're paying $5 for something that like is factory produced essentially.
Right,
like,
exactly.
are you...
That's worth like 10 cents.
If that.
By the way.
And you're mad that your Diet Coke is a Sprite for real? I mean... Yeah, okay, so I'm glad that I said that because, I've heard that's just the demoralizing part of it. Okay, what is the weirdest thing you've been asked to do whilst on the clock?
Weirdest thing I've had to do while on the clock. This is a job you just have to do it. When I worked at the regional airline, I loathed this job. I had to do lavatory duty, no pun intended.
I didn't even catch that.
Dad joke, like what?
He's here all night, folks.
Yes.
Like drain the shitter. Is that what you mean by lavatory duty?
Exactly. Ooh. Yeah.
I'm so affected by smells. Like I can't. Was that your actual only job there, or was that just one of the things you had to do?
So like you would come in to the regional airline. You would come in, and then your shift would start, and there'd be a list of what people were doing. Okay, so you may be just like regular ramp worker,
Bags.
You may be in the bag room or whatever. And sometimes when you see LAV if you saw Lav next to your name, you're like,
fuck.
Oh my. Like, I'm not kidding. This actually happened to me one time. Okay. So, remember, I was at SLU at the time. I was in college, St. Louis University, living in, for any Billikens who are listening, I was living in Marquette at the time. And I would take the Metro Link, which is St. Louis Light Rail, to the airport to work. Okay. Not every time because I had a car, but like often because it was just easier. It drops you off right at the airport, and it wasn't that far from campus. And so anyway, I remember I took the train one day and came in. I had lab duty at the job at the regional airline, and I was like, oh, why? And I'm not even kidding. Like my second plane of emptying the labs, I pulled out the hose after having emptied the lab. And a whole bunch of gunk spilled on me.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
Human waste all up on this body.
No.
It was
Chester.
Ooh.
And Chester, for the listeners
horrifying.
who don't know him yet, he's one of the cleanest humans, male or female, that I know. And that is, you poor
it's
thing.
a nightmare.
Oh,
nightmare.
I mean,
a bunch of random people's poop and pee and blue liquid on me. And I just went to the guy, I don't remember the guy's name, the manager who was on duty, and he took one look at me and he was just like,
go home.
Just go home. So I had to bring this funk with me.
Tell me you
onto the light rail.
Yes, it was a Metro night.
Back.
Oh my god,
yes.
Chester. Wait, what happened? Why? What was it like? Not attached appropriately? Was it not empty? What happened?
Yeah, I think I honestly don't remember the specifics, but I will say this, and like I said, Trans-States Airlines has shut down, so
May they rest.
do not have the nicest airplanes, so they're kind of rickety, and I don't know about. I mean, they might have been secondhand airplanes. I don't know where they got these planes from, but the specific, like some of these connections between the lavatory cart, as they called it, and the actual lavatory on the airplane, it just wasn't. They weren't good connections. So, bottom line is, just like those people who are throwing your bags around, you think they're like they don't give a shit, and honestly, a lot of them don't. Some of them are nice people.
Bless your heart. I can't.
Your shit on them. So
yeah, like I cannot imagine. I mean, that is the most disgusting answer I've gotten, and I've gotten some pretty gross answers. Like I thought getting barfed on is the worst. No, I would rather be barfed on than experience that, what you just described.
Yeah, because I remember I was listening to one of the episodes of the podcast, and I remember you talking about that to one of your comedian friends, and I was just like, yeah, that sucks. But like, yeah, thinking I had forgotten about that story until this moment we were talking about it, and yeah, getting airplane crap on you is high up there and one of the worst things that can happen in customer service for sure. Like,
oh my God. Yeah, that
awful.
that wins. That wins. I don't know how anyone tops that. That's why
Someone will top it, but I'm happy to be the guy who's on the leaderboard right now.
Yeah, you're winning right now by a long shot. Okay. What's the? Did I already wait? What, did I ask you? What's the weirdest thing you've been asked to do whilst on the clock? Did I ask you this?
Yeah, that was it. That was the weirdest
thing.
I've probably had some other strange things, but that was definitely one of the weirdest
Okay.
things.
Why did I skip? I skipped something. All right. Was there an incident that made them ask to speak to your manager at any point?
Man, I'd have to really think about that. I was, of all things, I really am in general kind of a goody two shoes.
Yeah, you're a likable dude, so I can't imagine.
Yeah. I don't like ruffling feathers, so sometimes I have it. That's almost to a fault. Sometimes, like sometimes I'm so non-confrontational that I don't even want. So I don't think there's any specific time I can think of. There's just one incident. There's one little incident I remember, and I was 16 at the time, so I probably should not have been even doing this job. But when I was working at the state office, that was literally my first job I told you about. I would have to answer the phone sometimes, and people who called were almost always attorneys, because I worked in a workman's. I don't know what the politically correct term. Back then, it was called the Division of Workmen's Compensation. So I don't know if it's workers' compensation now.
I got you. I see what you mean. Yeah,
it was workmen's compensation. I think back then that was in the 90s or whatever. And one time, this lady called and was asking for something, and I put the phone down, but I didn't actually put it on hold. And I totally disparaged her to my coworker. I mean, I was a 16-year-old kid. I should not have been answering these phones in the first place, but I was. And then my coworker went and talked, and they had an exchange, and I was just like, looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, that is I should not. No, don't let teenagers handle important case information about people's workmen's or workers' compensation.
That's insane. You're 16.
That's insane.
That's insane.
I don't know why they let me do that job. That was not a good idea.
Well, I am going to amend something then. That does count as customer service, answering phones there. And I didn't put that on the list. So 24 is your final number.
Oh,
actually.
24.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Yeah, because I did. Yeah. I mean, in general, I had to deal with almost exclusively my coworkers and a few attorneys. But yeah, I did have to. A few people would call about their case, random people, and
that counts.
They would they would call and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to find out what's happening with this," and I'm like, "Okay, what's your social security number? What's all this?" I had to get all this deep information about
That's
them.
Insane.
I know.
And you're 16. Okay.
I was 16. I didn't know anything.
Okay, what was the last straw that got you out of any of those customer service jobs? Because you're still in it. You're still in customer service. Because normally this question is how'd you get out of customer service? But the job you do is customer service. So
yeah, what I do now is customer service, but it certainly is it's definitely a professional job. Yeah. So yeah, it's a performance. It's professional. It's there's a certain barrier. There's something about it that's certainly different than working in retail. I always think about retail or people who work at call centers and stuff like that. But this is a different type of work. But what finally got me out of that public facing retail / I'm literally face to face with you kind of job was really the fact that I finally got paid decently.
Sure.
Honestly. And by decently, I mean more than $30,000 a year. It was just,
which is so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous that I finally made it to that where I could actually start paying student loans. There wasn't a breaking point per se, but once I got out of JCPenney, I think that was my last. I am never, ever I worked at the bank actually after that for almost a year. But when I got out of JCPenney, I was like, I am never, ever going back to retail, ever. And what it was, working that Thanksgiving to Christmas time period.
You are not the first retail guest to talk about how, and I agree 100%. That is the worst time to work. It will burn anybody out. That's why they have seasonal employees. It's not just because they're busier. It's because a lot of their like long-standing rest of the year employees are like, I will not be able to work the holiday season or I will quit.
Yeah.
What was it that was so hard for you?
Well, people were worse.
Yeah, they are. They are. It's a fact.
And I don't understand. I mean, I want to say I don't understand it. I mean, I kind of get it, but I really don't. This is supposed to be a joyful time of year.
Exactly. The irony notwithstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were worse.
Yes.
People, maybe these people just didn't shop the rest of the year and like regular customers were just like normal. And these people just come into the stores like from Thanksgiving to Christmas. I don't know what it is.
Maybe.
But they're just bad people.
I agree with that.
And so like, when I finally, like, you know, working at the bank, like working during the holidays was not a big deal. So I think once I got out of retail, I think that was the kicker for me, like as far as that part of customer service, getting out of that. And I think we live in a different world now, too, because of, for better or for worse, like the Amazon effect and all these other, you know, online shopping, whatever, where that time of year is not quite as important. But it's still a thing. It really is.
I mean, Black Friday still exists. People still wait outside. They still want the best deal. They still like lose their fucking minds.
Right. It wasn't but it was crazy just a few years ago. I mean, when I was working retail, I would have to work. Sometimes I'd have to work at the TV station, you know, like on the Wednesday or that prior, like Thanksgiving or something. And then they'd be like, can you come work Black Friday? And I'm like, yeah, after I do my day job, I guess. And I have to come work on Black Friday. And I'm like, no.
It's too hard, Chester. It's too much. When's your gas tank getting filled? Like you can't. It's too much. It's too much strain.
It was. I was killing myself at the time. But,
it's too much.
I mean, you know, you have to, you know, for better or for worse, that's the system we're in. You know, we can talk about trying to get that change, but that's for another podcast. But
sure.
The idea is that I had to hustle basically to get it all to pay the bills. Basically. Yeah.
What have you ever told a customer to fuck off?
Oh, that's a great question. I love this. I love this part of the show.
Thank you.
I really have to think about that. I don't think.
Well, you're a non-confrontational person, and you're not a dick.
I'm not confrontational, so I never really told anyone that. I'm sure I gave people like a little bit of attitude at most. I will remember one time. You should not do this ever.
Listening up, kids. Go ahead.
I was working at one of the bigger malls in St. Louis, the St. Louis Galleria, when I was working at the Sam Goody, the first Sam Goody, because I worked at two of them. And that first Sam Goody, I remember sometimes people would steal CDs and DVDs and stuff like that. And we were not supposed to do this, but like I would chase people out of the store.
Hell yeah, Chester, good for you.
Yeah. And I remember one time, this is the closest thing to fuck off I ever said. It wasn't really me saying, but like this is kind of like the closest thing to it, was that like this young kid stole, I don't know, some CDs, you know, which are basically worth nothing today.
R.I.P.
It's like I've got all these CDs and I'm like, they're worth like pennies. And so anyway, he ran out the store and I chased after him, but like I hung back a little bit so he didn't see me.
So he relaxes?
He relaxes. He starts walking and like security comes up and I'm like, there he is. He's right there. And like they totally come in and like busted him or whatever. And I was like, yeah, you know, take that sucker. I thought it was like so cool. I was like, I got that jerk. And I'm like, he's probably just some punk kid who like had nothing better to do and like probably can't afford to, you know, looking back.
Whatever. If I've got to, no, see, I don't align with this. If I got to pay, I'm working my ass off in high school at Bob Evans for $2.13 an hour trying to afford my CDs.
Below minimum wage is crazy.
Yes. Like, no, you like, I mean, I feel sorry for people to a point, but then I'm like, come on. So good for you. I would have been I'm a rule person too. I would have been like, nope, there they are right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I probably, there's a couple people I chased after. I should have never done that. But like, that was probably like the worst. I never really would have gotten in confrontation with customers. I was, like I said, I was just too nice. I really was.
That's not the worst attribute to have though, Chester.
No, but you know.
Yeah. How many bodily? Well, you sort of already answered this. I mean, I hope that you only have what you've answered. How many bodily fluids have been on your person whilst you're on the clock? Ever had any blood or anything else, or vomit or anything?
No, thankfully, none of my jobs have involved vomiting or blood.
Okay,
I'm trying
good.
to think, like, even in the catering business, like, people would get pretty
Sloppy.
hammered.
They would.
Super sloppy.
Saw a
But
lot of
I
barf there
never,
too. I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah. But I never was barfed on. So
Lucky you.
there's something to be thankful for.
Yeah, you still win though with the previous answer. Okay. Do you tip?
Always.
How much?
Always. I try to tip at least 15 to 20. It's more 20 these days, especially with the pandemic. I think I'm definitely closer to 20. It's because, I think the only job I ever worked really was that where I got tipped was the catering business. But just like that was enough for me to be like, these people need to be tipped. Even bad customer service, I'm still probably going to tip you at least 15%.
Okay, so that was my next question. Do you ever not tip then? Or do you tip all?
If I don't tip, it's because I forgot to. Like, because I remember there was like one of the podcasts you talked about like tipping baristas or something like that. Because we hit up the Starbucks and then a bunch of local coffee shops all the time around here, and I like to. I don't know, something about just getting coffee like not in the house is just better than the coffee in the house. It just always is for me.
So true. Yeah, same.
So like I always try to remember to tip at least $1 or $2, but like I said, especially with the pandemic, it's even more so, I think. Yeah, you're almost like risking your life to go like work at a coffee shop. Like, really?
Isn't that nuts? It's insane to me right now.
We live in a very bizarre and, in my opinion, unjust world. And that's just the way I feel about it. So.
Yeah, well, it's the upside down right now as well. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been fired from a customer service job? I'm sure the answer is no.
No, I've, knock on wood, I've never been fired from a job. I mean, there's still plenty of time.
Here's hoping, Jester. Here's hoping. Okay.
Yeah, please don't fire me, guys. Yeah.
Okay. Can you think of the worst customer? Now, this can also caveat to this. This could include, because the follow-up question I have to this that I added for you was, since you're regularly on TV, what's the meanest thing a viewer has said about you? So I want to separate the trolls from the worst customer. So can you think of a customer in customer service, maybe even during the holidays? It doesn't have to be, I'm just trying to jog your brain, or any sort of worst interaction. I mean, I guess stealing from you where you had to chase someone is pretty bad, but
yeah, that's pretty bad. But that was,
was there anything at the park service where you were like, oh, these people?
Yeah, no, I mean, no, I think most of the customer service stuff that I had to deal with, especially like at the park service or, working in the CD store, was like always be passive aggressive stuff that we would do to customers. But it's like those little things that you're like, you can kind of get away with, because you have a little bit of power in your little tiny realm
bubble. Yep.
Yeah. So I could get to that, but there's no customer that like stands out to me at this time where I was just like,
well, that's good.
Oh my God.
No, I'm glad actually. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate in that realm. I didn't have to deal with that. But yeah, in TV, I've had to deal with a lot of trolls. Yeah.
I want to hear about it. Give me just 2 of the best, worst comments you've gotten.
Yeah. And I used to clip them. That's how many I used to get. But as I've gotten,
clip them, like put them together in like a reel or something.
I would just like save little snippets.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, what a tool, this person was, or whatever.
Yeah.
One that comes to mind. Okay. So I like telling this story, but with the caveat that I don't ever want to interrupt people's television viewing for no reason. Okay. But, in severe weather situations, often the TV weather folks and TV meteorologists would cut in to programming to talk about tornadoes raining down upon a place, So I had to do that once in St. Louis several years ago. And we had the Kentucky Derby, I think, or the Preakness, one of those.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, that's a real specific group of people.
The people who love the ponies.
People who love the ponies are different folks.
They love those ponies. Okay. Because
they financially invested, boo. Like most of them, it's like, this is.
Yeah. So anyway, we had to cut in. It was me and the chief meteorologist at the time had to cut in to one. I almost want to say it was the Preakness, but whatever. It was one of those. And it was, we worked for an NBC station. NBC carries all those. So we had to cut in because it was freaking tornado warning.
And also, that's your job.
And it's my job, okay? Like, if we don't tell people about a tornado, why do we exist? Okay?
Also, they could die. You're not being like, yo, look outside. There's some snowflakes on the ground. You're like, Your house could get blown up.
Yeah, literally people could have died. And thankfully, nobody did in this particular storm. But there was an actual tornado. And it was hitting not in St. Louis, but one of the smaller towns in southern Illinois, which is part of the St. Louis media market. But still, like, thousands of people were in the path of this storm. So we cut in during all the it was basically the pre-race coverage of it. We actually got off of air for the actual race so people could see it. And we still got tons of hate emails and tweets, and Twitter was already a thing, and posts to our Facebook pages. It was all a lot of shut up, shut the fuck up, blah, 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 stuff like that. That sort of thing from, I'm not even kidding, hundreds of random people, just random people that I've never met these people. Okay. So that was probably one of the worst, like, as far as like interactions I've had with our customers, which in our case would be the viewers, where these viewers were just mad at us for covering up. We didn't even cover up the actual race. Like, we showed the actual race live in its entirety on our television station and then went back to tornado coverage. And a tornado hit a place. Several people like lost their homes,
That's astounding to me I guess it shouldn't be after all that I've experienced myself and all the stories I've heard, but that's
all the stories you've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, the sense of entitlement that your particular individual experience trumps the collective is,
right.
I will never understand that. That is unfathomable to me. On that note, we're going to get to the good stuff. We hoped you folks saved room for dessert. What's the nicest thing a customer has done for you whilst you were working?
Nicest thing. Let's say, besides getting decent tips. Decent tips is a big deal. That was, like I said, I only had one job where I was tipped, which was that catering business, and getting some good tips. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. Especially because it was so inconsistent. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're struggling.
Did anyone ever, like, at the Park Service job, can you tell which job I'm most obsessed with that you've done? It's like I keep bringing it back to this. Like, tell me more about being a park ranger. I just think it's so cool. Hat. Yeah, tell me about your flat hat. No, was there anyone that, like, maybe went to a manager about you or said, complimented your wealth of knowledge about history or, anything positive that they went out of their way to do to make your day better?
I would say a lot of people, like, after I would do some of my history talks, and I really don't even think I was that great of a public speaker at the time. I learned a lot of skills from that job. And I do a lot of public speaking. I think when people would come and listen to the tour that I presented, I gave a couple different tours in the museum, and I would talk about certain, just history stories or whatever. I think people would say, I really enjoyed that, or I learned a lot. I think that was probably some of the most positive stuff I got in any of my jobs, but certainly with that particular line of work, working for the Park Service. Because honestly, like, you don't have to, like, you do that job. You can kind of do that job and just kind of show up. You can make it a very easy job, the Park Service, but when you actually put work into, like, doing research and reading all this stuff and then being able to, like, come up with a story to be able to present that to people and people actually enjoy it, you kind of feel good about it, in a sense, that's translated to what I do now, because I get to talk about the weather all the time, and I hope that I give informative and positive, generally positive performance when I'm giving and presenting my weather forecast now. And I do, I've gotten some, even here now in DC, a place where people don't really watch local news like they do in some of the smaller, like St. Louis, like people watch local news. And in DC, it's like there's so much news happening here that cable news is actually more viewed than local news, which is bizarre to me because I I don't like cable news. Let's just leave it at that.
Opinions. Yep.
I won't be working for them anytime soon. But, I've gotten some emails even here, like I've gotten emails at previous jobs and this job where people would say, we really like the way you present the forecast. And that's really nice. Like when you hear stuff like that, or at the Park Service when they said, we really liked the way you told that story, or that was really interesting. And they engage you, like they would ask you, like, oh, so why did Lewis and Clark do this, and what about this? And, who is this person, So it was kind of cool.
That's a really neat thing that I hadn't ever thought to do, which would be send an email to people that I think are doing their job well in the front-facing sort of camera-based industry, like,
Yes.
Presenting the weather, and how it is effective because it's like getting an email. I mean, it's not the same, but like if I get an email from a listener who's like, I really liked blah, 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 or so-and-so's my favorite, it's oddly satisfying, especially because it's not like theater where you get immediate feedback and you can see who is watching you or who's listening to you or whatever. And so it is sort of a lovely way to sort of refill the tank and think, oh, people actually are appreciating my work. They are listening. They are watching. They are whatever, taking an email. So that's something I need to be aware of, is that when I see someone doing a good job on the news, I should probably shoot them an email.
Yeah, it is nice. I will say this, don't call a television station. That is the one thing I will never, I'm not even kidding, okay? I had a viewer call. We get viewer calls all the time. Now, since the pandemic, we're not in the office, so people don't call anymore. But like in all the years before I came into television news, I never once, ever thought I should call that weather person up or call that sports anchor up and tell them this or ask them. Never. So unless you got some juicy story to tell me, or you're telling me you're going to send me a picture about a rainbow tornado or something weird, don't call the television station. Oh my God,
you're a nerd.
But people call, can I just say it? People call for personalized forecasts.
I'm sorry?
I've had a few.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to clarify that. What?
Personalized forecasts. And now some people who call are really, really nice. They might be business owners and stuff like that. And so I'm happy to oblige in that case. But sometimes people are like, I've got this big outdoor event, and I've my kid's soccer game, and I mean I don't get paid to give an individual weather forecast. Like that's not what I get paid to do.
But also, like, not to minimize your wealth of knowledge or what you do, but literally weather.com is a thing.
Right.
You can type in your zip code. And
the thing about it is also weather is inherently unpredictable.
Hello.
So I'm not going to be able to tell you, unless it's a massive storm, like a freaking hurricane, or like I said, an aforementioned, nor'easter, or there's, we're probably not going to be able to tell you exactly what time 10 raindrops is going to hit, or when their first snowflake will fall when a big storm is coming. It is physically impossible. There's a thing called the butterfly effect, chaos theory, all this stuff. That is real. That's not like some TV show or movie or something. That's not made up.
Wait, the butterfly effect is real?
It's real. Literally, a butterfly flapping its wings could have an effect on weather 100,000 miles away. You just don't know. We don't know. We don't know that much about physics and the atmosphere and how things work. There's so many things that go into it. It's amazing what we don't know in science. Like the fact that we can predict the weather in general 5 to 7 days in advance, I think people should consider that to be a miracle.
Oh, I think it's magic. I genuinely think it's magic.
Because honestly, like I've been on vacation, I'm on vacation this week, Kate, like the week that we've recorded this, okay? So I went back and looked at my forecast sheet, okay, from a week ago, just to kind of see. I never get to do that. Because I'm always too busy. I just want to see how I did on the weather forecast, just how because I put together my own forecast every day. And I was looking, I was like, that was pretty good, I was like, I did, there was one day where I thought it was going to rain and it didn't. But like, for the most part, like my forecast was actually pretty good. And at that moment, I was like, okay, all right. Yeah, I kind of know what I'm doing sometimes, because it really is, it's a hard job. There are very few jobs where you're predicting the future.
That's literally what you're doing. You're a sorcerer. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, and then having people be mad at you for predicting it incorrectly.
That is a thing. That is a thing, a big thing. People are like, whenever someone starts ragging on weather. And that brings me to a story.
Oh, here we go. Can't wait.
This is a quick story. You may want to put this back in the other.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that. I was like, we're in the positive part. That's all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can always edit it out. Okay. So here's my story. I went to a charity event with a friend of mine. This is in St. Louis years ago. And I went. It was a charity for a woman who, I didn't know her, but she rest in peace. She later died. Okay. She had a terminal illness. Okay. This is a charity event. Okay. I went there with this friend of mine, and she introduced me to another person, a friend of hers or someone she knew somehow. I don't know how. And this guy, he said to me, he asked me what I did. I said, oh, I'm a meteorologist. I don't even think I told him I worked in TV. I just told him I was a meteorologist. This jerk, he goes, oh, well, I mean, I don't watch the weather. You guys don't even know what you're doing. To my face. I'm like, if I feel like I could choke you right now. But I was just like, well, I mean, what we do is difficult. I mean, if you think about it, we have to predict the future. He's like, I do that at my job. I do that. And I was like, what? I'm like, well, what kind of work do you do? Oh, I'm an admissions counselor at a university.
Fuck off. How are you predicting the future? You're going to have kids fail that you admitted to your school. You're not predicting the future.
Right. His argument, and I don't remember the specifics, but I remember him saying something like, well, I have to predict trends and stuff like that. I was like, dude, not the same thing.
Trends aren't a prediction. Trends are a proof. They're a graph.
And now, he was not a viewer, so he wasn't really a customer. I could have choked that guy.
I mean,
I was never been more insulted in my... I understand. If you want to rag on me, you want to send me a mean tweet or whatever, and be like, you got to run, blah, 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 whatever. You do whatever. That's fine. But to say that to my face, to be like that and be like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. I have to predict the future in my job, blah, blah, blah. Dude, you don't know anything about what we do. And nothing. You know nothing.
But also, who has that kind of time? I can think all day that I know what it is to, I don't know, be a doctor or collect trash or be a teacher or be a mother or whatever until I am literally walking in the skin of the person doing that. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and I certainly wasn't, I didn't demean his job. Like, I certainly didn't say anything negative.
And you could have been like, student loans are crushing me, dick.
Thanks for nothing, a-hole, But basically, he tried to say, I go back to the point where my job is to predict the future, and that was not his job. I don't even know why he thought he can compare those two. Like, to me, it's not the same.
It's probably because what you said penetrated, and he didn't have a good response. So the egoic response is, I do the same thing. It's like, right. No, sir. I'm so sorry.
You're comparing apples to elephants. Yeah. Dude, like, not even close.
In Japanese, none of this makes sense. Please walk away from me. That's so gross.
And to be a jerk at a charity event too.
I was thinking that. I'm like, wait, really? Is this the appropriate time to do this? Like, you're not meeting me at a party.
Yeah, taken aback by that. So anyway, that's one of my side stories about these
pieces of shit
people.
Okay, well let's go back to the positive. Who's the best customer you've ever interacted with?
I have to say the best customers. I know this is kind of cheesy, but
okay.
I've done a lot of the school visits. Especially pre-pandemic.
Oh, you would go into schools?
Yeah, I would go into schools all the time, and so I would see all these cute little kids, who they'd ask these great questions about weather and stuff like that. They were just they were sweet, and even some of the less cute ones, like the middle and high schoolers, some of them were actually would be really interested in what I had to say, and to me that was the coolest part. Those are the best customers because they have this yearning to learn, and even if they think they're too cool to learn, some of them would be like, hey man, that was really interesting or something like that. Or I'm like, oh, cool. Like, hey, TikTok me or something. I don't know what that means, but I don't have TikTok, but I'm not giving away my information to
to the Chinese. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man. It's so delightful. I didn't even think about that you got to.
Yeah, it's the best part. I mean, I haven't been able to do much of that, obviously, since I've gotten to the DMV. This is what they call this area. By the way, a lot of people don't know this, the DMV.
Why?
Yeah. DC, Maryland, Virginia. They call it the DMV.
Oh, so it's all sort of its own. Okay. Weird. So what's the nicest thing a viewer has said about you?
Well, I've had multiple people hit on me.
Yeah, Chester. Yeah. Hardcore flex.
Men and women.
Good. Let them know.
Yeah. Equal opportunity.
Hitting
flirt
on.
with me, I guess, apparently. So those, when it's not creepy.
That's a fine line.
I've had to rebuff a few people. Most people are just, they're general. They're like, I just really enjoy the way you present weather, or some people are like, I have this. I've had a few people say this to me, a few women actually were like, my husband will not get their weather from anyone else, or something like that.
And I'm like, that's the sweetest thing.
That's really nice. That's a really nice thing to say. Or I've actually had people name name their cat after me. Like,
Come
that
on,
happened.
Chester. Why is that the cutest thing I've ever heard?
I was just like, wow, that's really cool. That happened in like mid-Missouri, and I was in Jeff City, Columbia. And I left, but then I came back. They're like, oh, Chester's still doing well. And I'm like, oh, that's really nice. That your cat's still alive.
That is the most ridiculously adorable thing of all time.
Yeah.
I think, for someone to say to you, going back to sort of how you explain the process of doing it, for someone to say, my husband won't get the weather from anyone else. Well, as you mentioned earlier, you are putting together the forecast, your own forecast. And so I didn't know that piece of it. There is something with the predictability from you as the meteorologist as opposed to Bob Smith doing this sort of the weather in the mornings or whatever. That's fascinating. Do you ever contradict what the meteorologist in the morning said?
That's a good question. Yeah, I try not to.
What if they're wrong? And they're going to be wrong.
And that's the thing. Like, you have those times where your instinct or your gut says, so it's your shift. You own your forecast. You do what you think is best, And the thing about it is, I will say this, when you have a good weather team, which, I feel like I do here and I did in St. Louis, you should be able to trust your team, So I feel like that, even though I'm not the lead meteorologist here, I feel like that my chief meteorologist here trusts me to make a good weather forecast. So he's not going to call up and say, why'd you forecast that? He's not going to watch a broadcast and say, why'd you say it's going to be 78 tomorrow? It's probably going to be 80. It's because I have the experience. Now, there's still a lot I'm learning about this since I'm relatively new to the East Coast, this part of the East Coast.
Sure.
But still, like, the fact that I have experience and that I work with a good team and they teach me things, I'm learning things from them and I teach them things. So the fact that we all sort of trust each other, like, that helps. So I will contradict someone only if I really feel like this is change. And I'll explain it too.
So you'll say this, earlier it looked as though.
Earlier we thought this, but now, because weather changed. I mean, like, people always say, well, what do I need to get weather every day? I'm like, you don't need to watch the weather every day. But if you really care about something happening like 5 days out, you better be watching every day, because weather literally changes every day. So, like, our forecasts are going to change. Like, we can't make a forecast 5 days from now and say, okay, that's it. Washing my hands at this one and I just walk away. No, like, that's not how it works. Conditions change. Like, a hurricane might not exist 5 days from now, or it may exist 5 days from now when it doesn't,
Sure.
That happens all the time. As we're recording this, we're literally in the middle of hurricane season, and that is literally happening, where a hurricane doesn't exist 5 days ago, and then now people are getting battered by them. That happens, and we can't always predict that with accuracy until you see sort of like the whites of your eyes, in a sense, for certain storms. We put our heart and soul into this.
That's what. Okay, yeah, that's what it seems like. It seems like it is personal, which is very lovely and makes me really respect weather people way more. Actually, you think I would respect meteorologists just by knowing you, but
yeah. No, I'm not respectable. You don't know me.
You're not. That's true. You're not.
I'm not that great.
No.
But we do. Like, not all of us, but I would say a majority of us really do care. And when we get it wrong, I take it personally when I get it wrong. Like, when it's really off, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like sitting here, I'm like sweating about it, and like no one else in the world cares but me. But like, I'm like, oh my God, I said it was gonna be 70, it was like 50 today. Well, like, when that happens, I'm like,
but people also come for you, so it's a little bit of like, I don't want to deal with the fallout. But we're back to the positive. Okay, what is the best lesson that you have personally learned working in customer service?
And I think this is true anywhere in life, but you really just don't know where people are coming from sometimes, and so I think that's why. And I have to learn. This is a skill that I'm still learning every day, trying to be more patient and more kind. It's hard. It is hard. There's just so much you don't know. So that's probably the biggest thing. People come in with bad attitudes and like they take it on you, or, they meet tweet you or whatever, Sometimes you just got to be like, I don't know anything about that person's life, and they may be in an abusive relationship, or they may be, just lost their job. I don't know. I try. It's hard. It's so hard because people make it hard.
People want it to be hard. I really do feel that way. They want to push you because, they want the reaction. They want the interaction. They want.
Some people are looking for fights. They really are, especially now with the internet. Like, it's so easy to just like troll someone, like be a Twitter egg. Like, I was talking about that the other day. Some Twitter egg was saying some smart aleck thing to me, and they wanted to get a rise out of me, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. Okay, what's one piece of advice you would give to customer service or people? Well, Kate, what's one piece of advice you would give to customers who interact with customer service workers?
Yeah, just don't be a jerk. And just, I mean, I know, on the flip side of that, like I was just talking about how when I deal with customers and viewers in a sense, like I don't know where they're coming from, try to just be kind. And if we could just get that, I mean, so much in the world would just be solved right away. If we could just get to the other side of that, just like, don't go out, don't take it out on them, because people who are working customer service jobs probably aren't getting paid enough. They're dealing with a lot of them are dealing with crap from crappy managers, and a lot of them are dealing with crap from crappy customers. There's just a lot of crap going around in the world. I mean, I remember I worked at McDonald's. When I worked at McDonald's, there was one manager, nobody liked her. She had a temper, she'd yell all the time. But you know what? I got along with her great. And it's because I was able to learn to not take it personally and know that like sometimes there's probably some crap going on in her life that I don't know anything about. And I was like a 17-year-old kid at the time. So my life wasn't hard. So like, just try to take it in stride. I know it's hard, but just try to be nice to these people who are working these jobs, who are giving you your food and like taking care of you when you go to a show, or just like, why do you gotta be mean to them? Like, you're trying to have a good time, like, or you're just trying to have a good day. Like, don't even get out here with that negative. Be gone with you.
Be gone with you for sure. Yeah. And if you don't want to have a good time, don't go out.
Right. Yeah. Just okay. Like,
there's nights like, I don't want to have a good time.
Yeah. Don't bother.
Don't bother.
Don't go.
Yeah, it's okay.
Don't do it.
Just
like if it's like people are mad at us on TV, don't watch us.
Turn the TV off or go to literally any of the thousands of other weather channels on the air right now.
It's like if you already decided you're not going to like me, then there's nothing I can do. No. I'm trying to do my best every day. That's all I can ask for.
Yeah, and you're not going to do backflips for someone. It's like you're not going to waste your time with someone who chooses to misunderstand you. It's just like, okay, well then this is where we're at. Well, on that note, how can people get in touch with you, Chester? Do you want to give out your socials and website? Can people watch you on the Weather Report if they aren't in DC? And also, like, how is there a way to view you if they're not out in the DMV?
Right, yeah. So if you don't live in the DMV, we are at WUSA9.com is the website for the company I work for. We're the CBS affiliate here in DC. So those who are in this area, you can watch us on TV, but you can follow me on all the social except TikTok. Never TikTok. I just hissed at it like a cat. But
yeah, you did. I heard it. So did they.
But yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm very easy to find. Chester Lampkin, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have public pages for all of those things. And if you have weather questions, shoot me a question and I'll try to answer it. Like it's kind of fun. It's like a mystery for me. Like, ask me about something weird and I'll try to look it up and learn something new. So,
that's a cool challenge. All right, listeners, hit him up. And it's CHESTERLAMPKIN. That's how you spell Lampkin. Well, folks, we're going to drop your checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here at Service from Hell, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and tell your friends to listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled on the art of being kind and will be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. If you want to get in touch with us here at Service from Hell, send us your receipts at servicefromhellpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thanks, Chester. This was so lovely. Thank you for all of your time. Yay, rah. Good night, folks.